Hello. Alright, grade 6. Today we're going to do a science lab together. Now, I've already posted the instructions for this and all the materials you'll need to our Google Classroom, so if you want to do this on your own, please feel free to. It's always better to see an experiment firsthand than to just watch a video of it. That said, if you're not able to do the experiment in your own home, especially because this one does involve fire, and you might not have an adult around to help you with that part, if you're not able to do it, a video is a good enough substitute, so I'm going to record myself doing this experiment for you, just in case you need to see it that way. Either way, the template to write a lab report about this experiment is on our Google Classroom, so please have that and follow along with it while you go. You can just pause. I'll wait. Not even wearing my watch. Anyway, hopefully you're back by now. You could have stopped the video and I wouldn't have known you were gone. I'm a video. Weird. So now that you've got that and you have written your hypothesis and you are all ready to go, let's do this. Now this experiment involves trapping a lit candle in a jar and observing what happens as some of the gases in the jar react with that candle and others do not. And we're going to see what happens out of that. Now, I'm not going to spoil the actual results of this experiment for you in an explanation sense. You're going to see what happens, but I'm not going to tell you what happens in this video because I'd still like you to do some investigation. And we'll talk about this in our next class, but for now, this is just for you to observe, and any conclusions that you draw are based on things that we've already talked about in class or that you know from outside of that. I'm not going to give you any extra leading information right now. We'll explain what happened in class next week. Anyway, here we go. So on the desk in front of me, I have a mouse pad, which I'll move out of the way, and some cables from my microphone and such, but also I have a large mason jar. This one is, I believe, 750 milliliters. So that's the capacity of this jar. A lid for it, a tea candle, and fire. This is a very simple experiment. I'm just going to put the candle inside the jar, and we're going to light it. We're going to give you a minute or two to observe the candle and take notes on what it's like while the jar is open. And then we're going to seal the jar, prevent any more air from getting into it, and hopefully there will be a change that you're able to observe once that happens. So, let's go. Candle in jar. My hands are too big for this opening, so I'm going to hope this doesn't bounce. It's upside down. Let's try that again. Come on. There we go. Right way up. Look at me go. Okay. Candle is in jar. I'll turn it so the text isn't on the front of the jar and you can get a clear view of it. Let's light this candle, and we'll give it a moment for you to observe. Go, go, go. Candle still not lit. Great. Come on, candle. A lot of wax on the string. There we go. Candle is lit. Now, this doesn't work great on camera, so hopefully enough is visible here that you're able to see what's up. Candle lit, candle burning. Candle actually not very strong, though. You know what? Let's get a control. I have a whole box of candles next to me. Let's compare the candle in the jar to a candle outside of the jar right away. So we're going to light this one. And just for comparison's sake, you can already see there is a difference in the strength of the flame. This candle's lit, but is a little bit weak. This one is slightly stronger, not much stronger now that it's been lit for a second and a bit of the string has burned down, a bit of the wick. But we can still see there is a slight difference in the quality of the flame from the two candles. Might be something to note in your observations. This is the first time for you to make observations. Now again, as we talked about in class, observations are not just jot notes. You're doing your very best here to capture all of your five senses in both words and pictures. Now this is why a video is maybe not the best way to do this, because you have only one of your 5 senses here. Maybe 2 if it makes a loud enough sound that the microphone will pick it up. But for right now, you should at least be able to take a couple of jot notes about what the lit candles are like when the jar is open, compared to on the side here. And hopefully, maybe draw a little sketch of it, just something to help someone who's looking at your lab report later know how it looked, without just having to tell them with words. So we're going to give another, 20 seconds here, 15, 20 seconds. And when my timer says I've been recording for 6 minutes, which is now 13 seconds from now, I'll close the jar and we can note the difference. All right, here we go. We're at 6 minutes. So now we're going to take a chance and close this jar. Let's see what happens when the jar is sealed rather than open. We're going to be careful about it. We're going to give it a second here. Now we don't expect any change to happen right away, but we're going to wait and see what it does. Still got the lit candle for reference. You might notice the flame in the jar is getting a little bit dimmer. It's still lit, but it's not as lit. The flame is getting weaker and weaker the longer the candle sits in the closed jar. Still lit, but only a little. Seeing how the camera's picking it up, you can maybe see a little bit of flame around the very tip of the wick, but that's all. Still just barely lit. And it is now out. So our candle in the closed jar has gone out completely. Now, when we talked about the different composition of gases in the air, one of those gases that we talked about might be pretty important to what happened just now. Now, I'll leave drawing the conclusions on that up to you, but I am going to point out that of the 2 gases that we talked about taking up most of the air, one of them might have had a pretty strong impact on what just happened. Let's open this jar back up. A little bit warm. A little bit of condensation on the inside as well. We got some water vapor trapped in there with it. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to let the jar breathe for a little bit because at the moment there's only one gas in there. We're going to let it breathe, let the air come back in, and then relight the candle. Because there's one follow-up I'd like to do here. And that is to see what happens if I open the jar up when the candle has started to go out, but has not gone out all the way. This is just a modification, a second experiment to see if that changes. So we're going to seal the candle. We're going to let the flame die about halfway from where it is right now. Hi. And then we're going to open the jar back up and let it start to breathe again and see if the flame returns to its strength or if it continues to go out. So let's take a look. Seems strong enough right now. I think we're ready to start. We're going to seal our jar. And I'm not going to screw the top on. I'm just going to close it with the lid held down here. I'm not going to screw it all the way because I want to be able to take it off quickly. We're going to watch that flame. And notice as it starts to fade again, as it gets weaker and weaker, which it is definitely doing. The same thing is happening. That's important about science. Any experiment should be repeatable. You should be able to do it more than once. We're down to about half strength. So now I'm going to open the jar back up and let's see what happens with the flame. And actually quite quickly it's gone back to its original strength. It's right back where it was where we started. Wonder why that could be. All right. Now I'm just going to let this smoke waft around my head while I record the very end of this. That's it. Ooh, smells nice. Something I would make a note of if I were in the room with it. Yeah, that's this experiment. It's a short one, it's a simple one, but it does demonstrate something very important about the chemical makeup of our atmosphere, if you know what to look for. From what we've just seen, hopefully you're able to draw some conclusions and write a good follow-up. If you are still a little bit, if you're not sure, if you can't make that leap quite by yourself right now, we will talk about this in class. We will reveal exactly what happened in our class on Tuesday next week. But for right now, those are your observations. You can record that. And if you have conclusions to draw, that would be a great thing to do right now. Perfect. Have a great day, guys. Peace.